So I want to address something that is bubbling up in not only my comments, but the comments of other creators who produce content similar to mine. And that's angst about the amount of money the U.S. is supposedly giving to Ukraine. And the reason it's coming up right now is threefold. The first of which is obviously inflation is affecting Americans in a negative way. And they're upset about that. Their dollar doesn't go as far as it used to. And it's affecting everything from food to vehicles to whatever. Anything that costs money, frankly. The other reason is the elections are coming. So this is something that a lot of people like to focus on. It's not about Americans and serving America. It's about serving Ukrainians. Why are we doing this? And the third reason is because Congress, in a bipartisan effort, is likely going to pass a bill in December that will approve another $50 billion in aid to Ukraine. So the myth I want to dispel, and I've done this before, but I don't want to go back and find that video. The myth I want to dispel is that the U.S. is suddenly handing bags of cash that could go to Americans over to the Ukrainians for them to spend. What this money is, what this $50 billion is, and what the other monies we've given to Ukraine is the value of the equipment, and it's an estimated value of the equipment we're giving them. This is equipment that I like to call the goodwill equipment. This is the stuff that the U.S. won't use in any fight in its current era. It's either boneyarded or it's used as targetry or training. Lo and behold, you don't know this. A lot of military members do, but when we have an old Humvee that we just don't want to deal with anymore, we drive it out to the desert. Or we don't drive it, we haul it out to the desert. And then we shoot at it with A-10s or artillery just to see what it does. And it's not for fun. There's actually like studies and stuff. Sometimes it is for fun, but maybe it's the fucking shitty Humvee that you always had to repair, so it gets turned into targetry. And this is a real thing. So rather than it becoming this, we're giving it to Ukraine. The value isn't that we're giving them money and it's coming out of the Americans' pocket. The defense budget is not changing. We have the same defense budget last year that was voted on and approved. All of this money is within that defense budget. So you're not losing anything at this point. It is all previous equipment that the U.S. would never go to war with because it's old, because it was built in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and we just don't use that anymore. And so notice we're not giving them like F-22s and things like that. Where the only amount of money that comes out is when we replenish ammunition. But that's only a fraction of the cost of what we are giving them. It is a fraction of what they are getting is ammunition. Because ammunition is cheap in general, especially the types we're giving them. We're not giving them like Tomahawk missiles or ballistic missiles or anything like that. We're giving them our cheaper variants. So when someone comes up and says, I'm really tired of giving Ukraine money when Americans are suffering, tell them whether this war was happening or not, the U.S. defense budget would be unchanged. That money would have never gone to the American public regardless. It would have gone to defense. And from a strategic standpoint, this makes the most sense. Name our two greatest rivals to the U.S. and Western way of thinking, whether it's Europe, Canada, Australia, Japan, etc. All of our allies, name the two rivals we have, Russia and China. When we support Ukraine or Romania or Poland or the Baltic nations with infrastructure buildup, equipment, training, etc., it's a relatively small investment compared to the return we get in integration and them buying equipment from us, in the U.S. gaining respect, in containing Russia. Similar thing happens with Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Australia. When we support those countries as Americans, because let's be honest, no one does war better than the U.S. No one builds better equipment than the U.S. No one has a better intelligence network. No one has a better satellite infrastructure. It's just what the U.S. does well, among other things. We do a lot of things well. But when it comes to warfare, there's no one matches the U.S. So the investment we make into Ukraine to contain Russia means that Russia is contained. It means that for 40 to 50 billion dollars at this point, which would essentially be, it's less than 100 billion dollars, which is only 1/8 the entirety of the US defense budget. We are containing our main rival without a single cent changing pockets out of the American taxpayer. When we give $50 billion of equipment to Ukraine, that was equipment that was built 30 years ago, and we paid for it 30 years ago. That has nothing to do with what you're getting now. It was sitting somewhere. We're fixing it up quickly, giving it to them, teaching them how to use it, and going from there. Now, yes, we have some drones. We have some other things, like I said, small arms ammunition that we're giving them. But the return on investment for keeping Russia at bay, for keeping China at bay by supporting Taiwan and Japan is humongous. Could you imagine if Russia was emboldened to continue this fight into Moldova or Georgia, or even say that they get a vague picture that the US wouldn't support NATO countries in Europe? They would attack Poland. They would think, now I think Poland could hold their own, or they might even attack Estonia. That would be where they start. The Baltic nations kind of sweeping downward, Latvia, Lithuania, etc. The fight we would have to fight ourselves in blood and treasure would be astronomically greater than the 90 or so billion dollars we're going to give them over the next year or so. And the reason this makes sense, and the reason it is bipartisan, the reason even Republican senators are like, and Congress people are like, this makes sense, is because letting Russia run rampant and China run rampant causes far more of a cost to us. And us being there, teaching them how to use our equipment, how to integrate in our systems, means that in 5 years, guess who's buying our stuff for billions of dollars? It is an investment. And it's a twofold investment. We're stopping Russia, but we're ensuring the US is the major military partner for these countries. And that is why giving them this equipment is smart, but giving it to them in terms of dollars and cents is kind of dumb, because people automatically attach to that dollar amount. When someone's like, $100 billion over the course of 2 years, that could have gone to Americans. Well, on the other flip side, a $2 trillion war against Russia would definitely affect Americans. So that's something to think about. And I've made this video before. Feel free to share it and steal my points on this, so that when people say, I'm tired of us giving money to Ukraine when we need the money in America, you can say, we're not giving them money. It's the value of the equipment that we're not even using. And that's all.